good morning. On the XACL R line at Richland, got a clear signal for reportedly L743, new train of rock loads for Winston, Florida.
L743, 25 CSX Executives, got a clear single main number 166 South.
And welcome back to the Sunshine State Rails. On this clear Monday morning, the beautiful sunrise and clear signal at the Richland crossovers would stop us on our northward trip to Ocala. We'd be headed up that way today on word of a very special train making a return to the Sunshine State, and we'd stop in at Richland for this L743. A new train created with all of the CSX symbol changes, this being an extension of job A771. That used to be an aggregate rock train from Brown Sand, Georgia to Waycross. But with resymboling, they've extended the job to Winston, working Baldwin and Wildwood yards along the way. After doing all of that work overnight, it's just after 7 a.m. and L743 is now making it via Richland crossovers, with 69 cars loaded with aggregate rock for Winston Yard at Lakeland, Florida. 743 gets that high green indication here at Richland, as he's going to get another one down at Vitus. That'll take him down the Vitus subdivision and down into Lakeland, where Winston Yard is located. And personally, this is one of the first unit rock trains that I've shot almost anywhere in years. So even though they're running with a new local symbol, I believe that whenever we get to see one of these trains, it'll always be a treat. Such it was this morning in the golden light at Richland. But alas, we were out this early for a reason. Our special train's departure from Jacksonville southbound was supposed to be 9 a.m. So we immediately hit the road again, bound for Ocala. Alrighty folks, good mythical morning from Ocala, Florida. We're on the CSX S line. Upon some reports of the CSX office car train making a return trip down to Florida. It looks like it's going to be a full state tour again. They're going down to Miami today. I did a bit of a video for this one last year, so I don't have plans to do anything too crazy with this one this year. I just wanted to, get back up here and see it, because it isn't too often, we see this train. It is a beautiful train, so I always do like to see it, even though I've only seen it, once or twice before. But we're all the way up in Ocala today, because this here is the only spot just south of the control point Singletary that the track swings into the morning sunlight. In the summer, the sun is up to the northeast in the summertime in the morning, so this is the only place that we can get full side and nose lighting, which is something that I tend to care about. So he's just up the line now, and these executives don't have time to waste, so let's get set up on the overpass and we'll get rolling here. The CSX office car train P00127 was coming over the radio just after 10 o'clock in the morning. Yes, after a 9 o'clock departure from Jacksonville, they were coming through my scanner in Ocala in just over an hour. Put simply, this train hauls the company executives, so it is top priority, period. Their speed limits are the highest because they hold the passenger status, and they're hauling executives, so no train will get in its way. Clearly, it doesn't matter if your train is 10 hours late, you are not stopping this executive train. And such would be so, as the dispatcher stuck southbound I-177 in the hole at Ocala siding so 001 could get around them. You can hear the two trains giving each other marker checks as 001 flies around the corner at Singletary.
P00127 to 177, trying to look your mark on the rear open. Alright, appreciate it, still checking you out. Alright, thank you. CSX P00127, locomotive CSX-1, limited clear. Singletary, one to single main, top out. Number one, you look good on the other end. Appreciate it, you have a good day out there, thank you.
undoubtedly one of the oldest but shiniest trains to run a Class 1 system. The lighting and the bridge in Ocala was definitely worth a shot, but getting out of Ocala back to Interstate 75 was definitely another fight. Monday morning traffic almost anywhere in this state is more than you would imagine. Now, a little more about company office car trains. Of course, it's always a big deal to us rail fans when a company office car train makes an appearance on any rails that we're familiar with. However, put lightly, the OCS is really lipstick on a pig. Because the entire purpose of the office car train is to transport the company executives to one place or another for an unknown reason. Word in the field is that the reasoning is so the executives can see different parts of the system and see where they can save money, quote unquote. But what this tends to really mean is that they're going to pull up rail lines they see they don't need and get rid of jobs they say they don't have to pay for. And it always seems to be a different rodeo every time this train comes down, because for that aforementioned reason, last year this train made stops in Baldwin and Wildwood yards before running to Yeoman for the night. Whereas this time around, they're not stopping in either of those two yards, and they're running straight to Miami today. I've also heard that a purpose of the executive train is to simply serve their lavish lifestyles at the expense of the industry and crews. But no matter how lavish of a life you live, you can't get around mechanical failures. And alas, with such the negative reputation that the positive train control system has gotten, it would strike again. P001 would have to stop on the main at Summerfield with PTC problems. It was a pretty entertaining conversation as we rolled down 75. However, considering before the priority of this train and how fast they're going to keep it moving, it may have been the only reason that we had enough time to make it into the Dade City Depot for our next shot of the train.
CSX detector, milepost 825.9, no defects. Repeat, no defects. Total axles 6-8. Detector out.
Not sure how much of a role the momentary stop played in our advancement, but I wouldn't say by the time I had set up that I had any more than 10 minutes to spare.
CP 00127, locomotive CSX clear, southern Dade City, main to main, stop on it. CP 00127, locomotive CSX clear signal, Ellerslie, single main to number 1, stop on it.
Up the hills and out of Dade City now, the final portion of our perilous journey was beginning. As per the radio, the current Jacksonville crew would be to swap places with a Lakeland crew down at Lakeland Junction before the next crew would take it all the way down to Hialeah in Miami. This crew swap would buy us about 10 minutes of time, but time was already a gamble.
00127, locomotive CSX C1, clear signal, Richland, track number 1, rolling over, channel 32, stop out.
Trying to make the run from Dade City to Richland and down US 98 into Lakeland ahead of any train is a challenge. But ahead of the office car train, I already had a thought was damn near impossible. Even with that estimated 10 minutes of stop time, I was almost certain that there was no way that it was going to happen. But just like last year, the entire point of today's outing was to see this train. So even if it meant testing the odds, it would be worth at the very least a try.
127, locomotive CSX C1, clear signal, Lumberton. Number 1 to single main, stop on it.
But US 98 continued to stack those odds, with 2 semi-trucks getting in front of us, doing 45 and a 60. But even with the train calling signal after signal ahead of us, we had a bit of a ways to go, so we continued driving.
127, locomotive CSX C1, stopping on the main, Lake connection, stop now.
20 minutes later and we're approaching the outskirts of Lakeland. Only problem? The train's been stopped at Lakeland Junction for well over 5 minutes now. But it would be up to the radio to tell us every clue as to what was happening, for I could not see it with my own eyes.
SXJ, dispatch jet, science over.
CSX P00127, Dave.
Hi, P00127, go ahead, over.
Yeah, outbound, Sierra. You got 12 cars total. You got engines 1, 2, and 3. Those are all CSX. You got 1,200 feet and 1,200 tons. So ready to take us when you can.
TO up, over.
PTC, but there's no ETO.
I understand, no TO. I understand, and signal indication. We'll take off. Y'all have a safe trip on down, over.
Signal indication, we appreciate it, ma'am.
All right, here we go. CSX dispatcher, Jazz, hello.
XC 001 27,000 to number 1 as a medium clear Lakeland connection. Any other cars and stuff to the single main out.
What that all meant was that our train already had the new crew on board with permission to depart from Lakeland. And although we weren't there yet, we weren't that far away. And as long as they didn't call any signals outside of Lakeland, we'd still have a decent shot of seeing it.
CSX 001 27 northbound engine number 1 clear Lake Parker out.
So that right there basically told me that the chase was over. I don't know if you've ever driven through downtown Lakeland on a Monday afternoon, but it just does not work. And especially with the speed that those guys were going and the fact that they would hold nothing else up for that train, they were gone. They were miles ahead of us in 2 minutes. So that would be the end of that. But like I said, I did get the shots at Ocala and Dade City. So like I said, to have seen it all was enough for this time because I kind of just want to see it again. I had no elaborate plans for this one, so to have gotten those 2 shots was plenty for me. So I did happen to see a couple of other trains that day that I kind of diverted my attention to after this train went south, so let's roll those.
17726, CSX 568, medium clear, Lakeland connection, northbound now.
About 20 minutes after the departure of the office car special, and we find ourselves atop the Bartow Road overpass in downtown Lakeland. I would have tried to use this spot to see the office car train had we gotten here soon enough, but we didn't. We got here about 5.5 minutes too late. But not far behind was southbound I-177. This is that same train they stopped up in Ocala to let the office car train get around them. And they'd pretty much follow right in their footsteps, so we'd get to utilize this spot for this train. A friendly engineer at the helm of I-177 to sort of cushion the blow from our office car failure. Viewed from atop of bustling downtown Lakeland, I-177 is nightly double-stack container traffic out of the giant Duval Intermodal Ramp in Jacksonville, southbound for the Central Florida Integrated Logistics Center on the southern outskirts of Winter Haven. After the closing of Taft Ramp over in Orlando, the Winter Haven CFILC became the main center for this container business, with the main concentration now all being sent in and out of that facility, and this one singular southbound intermodal set to serve that entire facility. With such a large area of business concentrated into one singular facility, these Winter Haven intermodal trains often run excess of 10,000 feet of train or better on a daily basis, most if not all of it being loaded. Judging by how long it took for this train to slide beneath me, I'd say that today was no exception to that. And yes, I say today, even though I just said that this train is nightly. This train is about 10 hours late today, so he's making it through Lakeland just after noon, which kind of holds the irony of CSX's customer service initiative with them having stopped this 10-hour behind train in the siding in Ocala for a group of executives having to fly by on the main. But even though the prime shipper Amazon has a key stake in today's train, I guess in the eyes of priority, it didn't really matter up at Ocala.
17726, CSX 568, clear signal, distance 6 Clarksburg, northbound now. Well, 7726, CSX 568, clear signal, Clarksburg, northbound now.
Well, the office car train had come and gone, and I-177 afterwards was more of a bonus, and I had an event to be at back home around 5:30, so it was about time for us to take off. On the way out of town, though, I did hear one more train on the radar headed southbound.
CSX 44126, locomotive 7792, clear Blanchard in and like to stop on out.
M441 was on their southbound, also just as late run to Tampa with a curious GE-8 liter, and it was only about 1:30 in the evening by this point, so I figured I'd have some time to go and shoot it. So on the way back through town, we'd pull off the interstate and run down to Tampa's 78th Street. 441 was already there and stopped, waiting on a yard crew to finish switching so they could make their way into the yard tracks. In just about 5 minutes though, the yard job had cleared up and 441 would inch their train into Yeoman. 441's dual-engine consist this afternoon would consist of 7792, that wide cab -8, and ES44AC-H number 783, wearing a very stunning coat of brand new CSX website livery. I discussed this new paint scheme briefly in my most recent video. I'll leave a link to that video at the end of this one if you'd like to go check that one out. 441 is the nightly, or daily, depending on what time he gets here, haul of mixed freight traffic for Tampa and its surrounding zip codes. It all comes into the giant Thomas Rice Yard in Waycross off long-distance mixed freights, and 441 brings the Tampa concentration down here to Yeoman. The very first cut of cars in the train are auto racks, loaded with brand new automobiles for distribution to various dealerships in the area out of the Drew Park Distribution Center. Behind the auto racks would be pretty much everything else. Loaded box cars, covered hoppers, tank cars, empty Tropicana reefers, empty cement hoppers, and some other miscellaneous aggregate rocks. We wouldn't stay for that bottom portion of the train though, as it was 15 miles an hour and under the rest of the way into Yeoman, and I did have to get on the road for home pretty soon. So this is where I'd break it off. The only goal of today, however, was to get out and see the office car train on its Floridian return, and we accomplished that, so it was, without a doubt, a successful day. I thank you for joining me along this sporadic outing to Central Florida, and potentially sticking with me through all the confusion that came with it. Who knows where we'll be the next time I turn my camera on, and I hope to see you then, somewhere, maybe or maybe not on the Sunshine State Rails.